Have you ever wondered how the current state of inflation is impacting our economy? Well, buckle up because we're going to dive right into it. Now, inflation isn't just a term tossed around in economic discussions. It's a real phenomenon that can significantly affect our financial landscape. Currently, all eyes are on the upcoming release of March's Consumer Price Index, or CPI, report. This report is expected to reveal an acceleration in headline inflation, largely due to higher energy costs. Think about it. When energy costs rise, it trickles down to virtually everything we consume, from the food we eat to the goods we purchase. Core inflation, which excludes volatile items like food and energy, is also projected to surge by 3.7% annually. This is a slight slowdown from February, but it's still a notable increase. However, despite inflation being above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, the rate cut debate is far from over. The question remains, will the Fed cut rates to cool off inflation, or will they maintain their cautious stance due to a robust labor market? Even though inflation is above the Federal Reserve's 2% target, the rate cut debate remains a hot topic. Stay tuned as we explore this further in our next segment. Why does a strong labor market make the Federal Reserve cautious about rate cuts, you might ask? Well, it's a delicate balance. Despite inflation soaring above the Fed's 2% target, they're treading lightly when it comes to rate cuts. The reason? A robust economy and a strong labor market. Rate cuts are typically used to stimulate economies that are underperforming, but in a thriving economy, they could potentially lead to overheating and excess inflation. Now, the market is abuzz with anticipation, with a 56% chance being priced in for a rate cut at the upcoming June meeting. The stakes are high. But the Fed's task is not an easy one. Achieving its rate cut goals is proving to be a challenge in the face of such a powerful economy. So, what's the verdict? Well, Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic expects one rate cut in 2024, but it could be 2 or 0, depending on economic conditions. What are the factors driving this high inflation, you may ask? Well, there are several reasons to unpack. Foremost among them is the surge in energy costs. When energy prices rise, it affects virtually every sector of the economy, from transportation to manufacturing, and even your household utility bills. Next, let's talk about core goods prices. Core goods include items like clothing, electronics, and other products that exclude food and energy. Interestingly, these prices are projected to decline, contributing to a cooling off in core CPI inflation. However, the story doesn't end here. The Federal Reserve, or the Fed as we commonly know it, has a preferred inflation gauge, the Core PCE Price Index. This index, which excludes volatile food and energy prices, has shown a slight cooling. This might seem contradictory to the high inflation narrative, but it's important to remember that the Core PCE Price Index is just one among many indicators the Fed uses to gauge inflation. Despite the cooling in core CPI inflation, inflation is expected to remain elevated. This is a complex situation with many moving parts, and the Fed will continue to monitor these indicators closely to ensure the continued health of our economy. So, what's the big picture here? As we wrap up, let's revisit the key points we've discussed. The current state of inflation is expected to remain elevated, with an acceleration in headline inflation to 3.4% due to higher energy costs. This is a significant rise from the Federal Reserve's 2% target. The reasons behind this high inflation include a strong labor market and robust economy, making rate cuts a challenging proposition for the Federal Reserve. Despite the rising inflation, the Fed is cautious about rate cuts, and the markets are currently pricing in a 56% chance of a rate cut at the June meeting. The rate cut debate is expected to take center stage, with the Federal Reserve facing challenges in achieving its goals due to the robust economy. The Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic has also chimed in, expecting one rate cut in 2024, but with the possibility of 2 or 0 cuts depending on economic conditions. As we navigate these economic uncertainties, it's important to stay informed and understand the factors affecting our economy.